Welcome to the Property Experts podcast, where you'll find open conversations, no bullshit attitudes, and deep dive insights from award-winning property developers and business owners, Ben Richards and Jack Jiggins. Together, they've delivered over 40 million in gross development value over the last 5 years and have a pipeline of over 25 million to deliver in the next 18 months. They've built numerous other seven-figure businesses with six-figure net profits around their property ecosystem, and it's by no means been an easy ride. So on this podcast, they'll share their weekly trials and tribulations running multiple businesses, giving you never-before-seen insights into the inner workings of finding, funding, designing, delivering, and selling award-winning property deals, together with golden nuggets of advice through the 5 key areas of any business: marketing, sales, operations, finance, and talent. If you're a young entrepreneur looking to get started, or have a small team but you're looking to scale your business to the next level, this is the No Bullshit podcast for you.
Hello everyone, and welcome back if you've joined us before, but welcome if you are new. Thank you for joining XB Expose Live at 5 Property Experts podcast, where Ben and myself, who run multiple businesses in the property and construction centre, bring you the highs, the lows, the funds and the tips. We've got one of everything in today's agenda, so we're excited to be sharing how busy this week has been. And there's a little bit of a spoiler alert, we had some unexpected visitors on one of our sites. So that is one to stay around for. But to go through the agenda, if you're listening, it's the 20th of September 2024, and we'll be sharing some tips around your sales brochures. Obviously, one of the most important things to do in property development is the exit. All of that hard work is crystallized by an exit, whether that's sales or refinance. So it's a top tip to be had there. I've been fortunate enough to be accepted on the Goldman Sachs Small Business Growth Program, where they have set out to help 10,000 businesses grow. It's almost like a condensed MBA. I had my first residential, which is 2 days back to back of seminars, talks, networking, peer-to-peer learning, business growth, talking. So I'll be sharing some 4 top tips of what I have learned this week that you can implement in your business today. We'll be sharing the site tour that we did yesterday, actually, which was hosted by the Developers Club, but we were showing around the 3rd executive group around the buildings. Quite a fun group, very boisterous and banterful, so a very fun day. We'll be talking about these unexpected visitors that we had at Tame. I know you're probably thinking bed lice or potentially rats or things like that, but we'll be sharing exactly what those visitors were. It's a sad day for all of us in the office. We're actually going to go and do a pub quiz after work. It's the last day of all the 4 summer interns that we had from Reading University. So we'll be tipping you about maybe potential juniors that you could bring into your business and why that might be a good idea. We'll be talking about the tails of the ecosystem. If you've just got one company and you're thinking about setting up a second, or you could set up a second that would complement that business, what's the benefits of doing so? And then last but not least, before going into the Q&A, we'll be talking about what sort of investment rounds we'll be looking at raising at the end of this year and into next year. Anything I've missed, Ben?
No, all good. Let's crack on, because this is something that I've been promising for about a month now, to go through sales brochures and how we structure them, how you should think about them going into selling your sites, what should be included, how it should be structured, etc. So these are on the screen. If you are tuning in on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. If you're listening on the podcast, do tune into some of our live videos every now and again, because you will see there's some things that obviously you can't listen to. And a lot of the stuff we talk about is very visual, because we're developers, we're architectural, construction, a lot of stuff is very visual. So yeah, do tune in on video on YouTube as well. But you can see 3 of our sites in front of you. We've got Maple Rise, which is our 9-unit scheme in Muswell Hill. We've got 45 Archway Court, which is in Marlow, a conversion of an office, a Grade 2 listed office and a dance studio into 8 flats. And then on the right-hand side, St Andrew's Court in Tame, which is South Oxfordshire, and where we will be building 20 flats, hopefully 2 houses in the car park, and we've retained 6,000 square feet of commercial space on site. Now, all of these sites are due for delivery, between now and Q2 of next year. So we're super busy on these sites, gearing up for the sales. If you tuned in last week, you'd have found out that we've secured 2 and potentially 3 reservations on St Andrew's Court before even launching to the market. We're not launching for another 2 weeks now. Through soft launches via the site signage, creating a micro website, creating these brochures that you see in front of us, we're able to get sales and offers and interest on the site without formally launching on Rightmove and other platforms like that. So what I wanted to do, what I promised that I would do, is go through some of these and how we look at these brochures and what we do to make sure that they're as optimized and as attractive as they possibly can be. So have a quick scroll through Marlow, which is the 8-unit scheme. I've got some images side by side of the brochures. The one on the right-hand side was version 1, and the blue one on the left-hand side is where we've got to now with version 2. So I would say with brochures, you're probably going to go through 3 rounds of iterations. The first one is very much a draft from your designer. That's where you're going to pick up most of the comments around how you want it structured, what needs to be included, high level feedback. And then on rounds 2 and 3, versions 2 and 3, you're going to be just picking holes in minor things and changing some text and wording and things like that. So I'm going to flick through these side by side because I think that's a very good way of showing you how we go through the process, because what you will normally see is the end product. Now, as a developer, you need to understand how these things are put together and how you need to drive efficiencies within the team. So one of the key things through all of the sales brochures that we do is the mentality of being inspirational. A lot of the time, I've seen a lot of brochures in the past where they're very, very functional. They give all of the relevant detail about the flats and the specification and what people are generally kind of buying on the face of it. But that's not going to sell your home as well as getting people buying into living there. They've got to see your property as their new home. And to do that, you need inspirational imagery. This one's a CGI that's coming. This is just a placeholder at the moment until we've got the full CGIs created. But you want to start your brochures with the inspirational stuff. Why do people want to live in Marlow? They come to Marlow because it's got amazing restaurants. You're right on the river of the Thames. You've got some great shops. It's an affluent market town. And that's really what you want to be presenting early in your brochures. Some comments I've been making on these that you'll see on the screen are, you're obviously going to have your own comments on your own schemes, but hopefully some of the comments that I make going through these will be relevant to you in terms of thinking about how it's pieced together. Our designer suggested that the main image on the travel section should be the Elizabeth line. Now, for those that know Marlow, to get to the Elizabeth line, Jack, what would I have to do to get a bus to High Wycombe and then a train?
Yeah, you can benefit from it because it's actually a train to Maidenhead, which you have to do anyway to get to, I believe, Marylebone. But you're on the railway line then, so it's kind of like.
Yeah, for me, it was like, I love we want to be inspirational. We want to sell the site as amazing connectivity, but you have to be realistic. And that realistically, it's going to take you half an hour to actually get to the start of the Elizabeth line before you're even on it. And that's like me sort of, saying that it's a little bit too far-fetched. So my comments on this were, look, I love the ambition, but let's make it more realistic to what is actually achievable from Marlow. So this is all about the travel section, getting around, highlighting the key factors of what's local, how you get to the most important big cities. If people are going to be living in this area, they're going to want to be commuting. So what's their train like into London? How long is it going to take them to get to Liverpool Street? Or how long is it going to take them to drive to Oxford or Reading? Those are the sorts of things you want to be putting in your travel section. Then we'll do more of a local area. So the first draft was the image on the right-hand side. We could sort of tell that the designer designing this doesn't live in Marlow, doesn't know much about it. So we then had to really push some of the key reasons why people will come to Marlow itself. We've got 200 meters down the road, the only 2-star Michelin pub, is that right? The Hand and Flowers.
Yeah.
So that's a really, key thing to be mentioning on your sales particulars. We have the River Thames running straight through Marlow. That wasn't on the original plan. So the plan on the left-hand side was me saying, shift it up, make the map bigger, make sure that we're showing the River Thames and how close our site is in proximity to that. We've got lots of big parks in Marlow, so we need to be showing those. Lots of good private schools, lots of good leisure facilities. All these things need to be shown on the plans, on the map, to make people want to live there. Then we've got some more inspiration. So most of the time throughout the brochure, if you're selling off plan, you'll want to be weaving in CGIs. This is one of them. So this is one of our kitchen, dining, living spaces. The CGI itself is in draft. We need to tweak and amend, but even this draft actually looks pretty good. There's a few comments that I want to make and go back on. Similar again. So It's inspirational imagery. It's content and text that is aspirational, true comfort, welcome to Marlowe's most desirable new development, characterful and vibrant setting. All these words are crucial to kind of portray your development as best as you possibly can be. And then you get into the nitty gritty. You've spent, what we're on page 10 now, and we're only really getting into the nitty gritty of the development itself and what people are buying into. So this is where you've got the floor plans, and my comments on this are, we changed the style of it. We went from a green background to a white background because I think it was a bit more punchy. A few issues with the site plans, tweaking it to suit and make it a bit more understandable very quickly, because people are going to be scanning through this. So they want to really understand where individual flats are located within the scheme. So if you've got a big block of flats, you're going to want a site map, which is this thing in the bottom right. You're going to want to show where the north arrow is so that, people get caught up on south-facing gardens and where the sun's going to be coming into their kitchen in the morning. All these things need to be very quickly apparent. Furniture layouts are king as well. So make sure that you're showing small double beds so that the bedrooms look bigger. That's a bit of a cheeky tip. And you want to be showing how the furniture will be laid out and how people can see themselves living in the space. I think that's it in terms of the sort of comments that I would generally make. So go back to the main slide. So that's how I would go through brochures and review them. That was my version 1, version 2 comments on Marlowe. I'm waiting on version 3 to come back off of the comments that I made most recently. Muswell Hill, I wanted to talk a little bit about sort of structuring your brochure, which I've loosely gone through in the Archway Court Marlowe scheme. But I'm just going to read out the tips that I think you should be thinking about. So top tips when optimizing your sales brochures, and this is how we have structured them. Top tip number 1, make it feel like they are home. That's fundamentally what you want them to be doing, buying the property, calling it their home, and you need to do everything you possibly can to make them feel like this could be their new home and they can see themselves living in it. Number 2, first impressions are everything. So lead with that inspiration, lead with your best CGI, lead with your most inspirational words. Like I really love the wording that we've got in our Muswell Hill project. So our first page is this one here, which is a kitchen image, which looks amazing. You've got these crystal doors on the right hand side and nice pendants over the kitchen breakfast bar, which you could see yourself living in. Nice kitchen appliances, nice flooring, nice kind of tranquil setting, and a really nice CGI image with some really nice text to the right hand side. And then again, second page, even more blown up in your face, homes that embody tranquility, sophistication, and the artistry of bespoke living. It's fluff, it's marketing talk, but it all helps to kind of breed want and need for people to be inspired by living there. Basically, that's what you're aiming to do. So lead with the inspirational stuff, and first impressions are everything. And then start thinking about why would I want to live there? Top tip number 3, why would I want to live there? Okay, I'm going to want to understand what travel there is. I need to get to work. What's my commuting times? What food facilities? We've got restaurants, cafes, bars. I moved to St Albans 3 years ago because of the amazing cafes, bars, restaurants that you have available. What retail outlets are there available? What leisure facilities are there? What schools are there? What education? All these things are more macro elements, but that's what people are going to be thinking about when they're moving into one of your developments. And then you're going to go into number 4, which is what are they actually buying? This is where you're going to be showing the floor plans, the schedules, the details, the site map, the south-facing garden, and the interior specification of the flat. So are they getting stone worktops? Are they getting engineered wood flooring? Are they getting a Bosch appliance or a Siemens or a Miele appliance? Those are the sorts of things that you would put at this very end section. And notice that these specifications are at the very end of your brochure, because what you want to do before getting to that point is make people feel like they want to live in your development. And then call to actions, as always. How can they find out more? Do you have a micro website that you can direct people to? Who are the agents? What are the phone numbers? How do they get in contact to buy their new amazing house they want to move into, because you've inspired them and you have made them feel like they want to live in your development? Hopefully that has been useful for people to understand how we structure our brochures and how we sell off plan and sell faster using these types of marketing tools. Cool.
Yeah, I think there's just so much evidence there of like actually pushing back on consultants because they don't know the scheme, they haven't lived and breathed it, or even know the area. And I think that's really, really, really key.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, you are the driver of your own development. You can't just bitch and moan about consultants not understanding stuff. They're not in it day to day as much as you are. You need to be the one driving them forward, challenging them and pushing back on things. So yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Cool. How was your first week at school?
Yeah, schoolboy. Really good, really good. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It was peculiar going back into lecture theatres and homework sessions and one-to-one peer learning and all that sort of stuff. But as far as the content and the course goes, absolutely loving it. It's super relative to everything that we're doing. It's definitely progressing me as a business owner and what we're used to. And I've got abundance of ideas of things that I want to run through with you, with Rob, with the team. So I highly recommend it if anyone takes a chance to look at Goldman Sachs 10K Business Growth Program. It's essentially where they reinvest almost like a charitable donation, a lump sum into the education of small business owners to help them scale their business. The aim is that they believe that if they help scale small companies, the sort of osmosis effect of doing that has more impact than giving a charity a lump of money that then gets spent until they get another lump of donation. So it's all about sort of feeding the plants from the bottom rather than necessarily cutting a good analogy, rather than giving a man a fish, giving him a fishing rod so he can fish for the rest of his life. But anyway, I digress into weird analogies. So the first one we're going to talk about is actually decision making. And this is just something that is so obvious, but none of us have actually probably sat down and thought about it. And it's actually run by a guy called Michael Snets who did the talk. I think he's from Holland, but basically he talks about the process of a business owner or a person that needs to go through to make a decision. And the circle that you can see in front of me is his sort of metrics. And you should be able to pin yourself, almost like pin the tail on the donkey, where you sit within the decision-making process. I mean, a useful exercise will get Ben to pin himself on here. But what I would like him to do is to get him to pin himself on here as an ex-poker player, and then also pin himself on here when it comes to booking a holiday, for an example. So the axes are, you have the top, which is fearlessness, and the bottom, which is anxiety. So that's almost like your confidence in decision making. You'll find that a lot of intricate technical people might not have the same confidence as someone that's in sales, or their personality driven is more in sales, and maybe make a silly mistake without going through the sort of anxiety process. And what this is just to balance you out. So we've got the confidence level on making decisions, and then the sort of cross axis is the knowledge that you have to make that decision. So some people may be anxious to make a decision but not have any knowledge on it, but still make a decision, whereas others may be confident and little information to make a decision, whether you might have some decision makers that are very confident but they need to know the ins and outs. And it's all about the sort of balance that, and the ultimate decision maker should be right in the middle. So you have a balanced amount of knowledge, but not too much, because you might be too late to make a decision. You might overcook it and get analysis paralysis. And then you're also, from a risk perspective, you're not making a decision without knowing all of the options and overturning those stones. And there's certain things you can do in these areas to sort of monitor it. So Ben, where would you say you would sit as a poker player in the axes?
I was pretty aggro and pretty fearless, to be honest.
Top middle?
Top
left?
Yeah, probably top middle-ish, yeah, I would say.
Okie dokie. Now, let's go for a decision, like an important decision in one of the businesses. Where would you say this on the chart?
But explain what the not knowing and knowing thing is again.
So that's the knowledge. So some people would like to, it's all about, you have a gut and then you have a theory, right? And it's how much you have to go into the theory to go with the gut decision or prove the gut decision wrong. So your gut is like your initial instinct.
I'm generally pretty gut driven, but I do like a bit of data to kind of back up just some of those decisions.
I'm probably still fairly confident. So you're probably middle, just below, I would have said, where you were for the poker playing.
Yeah, probably. Like you've said before, I'm similar to you in terms of I would rather make a mistake but make a decision than some people that need the answers to every hurdle before taking the first step.
So So my comparable for this is my brother Rob. He's a steel profile, so very Lord profile, isn't necessarily out the box, and he actually does get analysis paralysis. I have made a decision, cocked it up, and then amended it before he's even got to his conclusion. And this is where I found this super interesting, because when you understand that, it's not just about personality profile, it's actually getting a decision dialed down. So it helps us, people like me and you, to risk manage and think about the context around the decision, which is typically business owners are go-getters and normally sort of top, middle, right. And then other people in the team might actually be really far on the opposite end of the spectrum, so decisions aren't getting made. So it's to try and balance everyone in the team out so that logical decisions are getting done in the business. So found this super useful. And if you Google up Michael, he's actually written a book on it and done some other bits. But I thought it was a cool exercise. I'm actually sharing it with Rob to bring him up.
If you're excited by some of the property developments or investments that we talk about on this show and want to know more about investing £100,000 or more with XP, email info@xpproperty.co.uk to set up a call with one of our team. We can discuss our open investment opportunities and provide you with our track record details showing with complete transparency our historic performance project by project and how you could be part of our growing pipeline of developments.
Next one is competition exercise, which I found really, really interesting. So we got paired up with someone else in a different type of business, and we basically had to critique our partner's website and their competitor's website. So this is a really cool process. If you've got a friend that's a business owner or a friend that's a developer, link up with them and say, I want to do an exercise with you. And what you then do is you pick your own website and your sort of leading competitor website. What I would recommend is you pick someone that is where you want to be in a few years' time. So they sort of should be better than you. And then what you do is you go through quality, range, price, expertise, customer service, and trust. And you go through those sort of 6 elements and you grade them out of 10. And then you write notes of why the potential competitor or the partner that you're working with performs better than the other team. And you're basically building a task of things that you may need to change on your website. So we've got a list. I haven't told this to Ben yet. We've got a list of things that we need to change on our website because our potential competitor of where we want to be in 3 years did outperform us in a few areas on our website. And it's things like ease of finding information, trusting that, maybe some information that person really had to dig deep to find trust should be at the forefront of our website. So it's all about your sort of competitor situation on the website. And quite frankly, it does ring true. If I find a well laid out website that I do trust, I'm not going to keep going through pages and pages of Google to buy a product or a service off them. I'm going to stick with the sort of easy, sensible decision. It's a really useful process. And I've actually got a bit of a tip under the ChatGPT one if you don't have loads of friends in business of how you can sort of jump to on this one. So if we go to the next one. So ChatGPT, shock horror, there's some AI integrated into the Goldman Sachs program. So point number one is like learning about it. And a lot of people have said that there's multiple ways to look at AI. You can sort of be scared of it and run. You can sort of embrace it and grow with it. And we're massive advocates of embracing it and befriending it and running with it. I do actually think there's a lot of businesses out there that could have a niche where they don't use AI, where a lot of people were going and they want a personal service. They want someone that's there to communicate. And, for an example, travel agent, they might just want the convenience of seeing someone, speaking to someone, them understanding what they like, and then sort of dealing with that. So I do think there's a huge USP for businesses that do want to stay specifically personal. But for those of you that are in the day-to-day and you might want to use ChatGPT, we learned a lot about things called prompts. Now, what a prompt is ChatGPT, kind of like a horse. It's only going to be as good as it is as a racehorse, depending on how it's trained. So it has the capabilities of being everything that you need it to be, but your prompts are equally as important as the software that you're using. So we learned tons of information about how you prompt the software. And now how I'm going to give you an example for this is using the previous tip, which is the competition website competitor gauge mark, how you can use ChatGPT to look at that for you. So let's take it. We've got our development website and we've got our competitor's website, and I want ChatGPT to do the exercise for me. So there's certain ways that I can do that. And this is an example of how you might prompt a website. So the first question might be to ChatGPT, can you act as a non-executive director for our business and compare my website, xpproperty.co.uk, and our competitor's website, xyzdeveloper.co.uk? ChatGPT is then put on the hat of being a non-executive director to be poignant in advising different areas from a business perspective to advise on how your business comes across. Now, that's one way, and you will get one answer from that from ChatGPT, which, by the way, is a really easy way to do, and I highly recommend it. It's super fun. And then what I would also recommend as a tip is drop down those 6 different areas as a prompt. So Ben, if you can just go back one stage. So to ChatGPT, you would say, can you take a look at things like quality, range, price, expertise, customer service, and trust? You could also add in quality of a like looking and things like that. But anyway, back onto the ChatGPT one. So prompt number 1 is, can you act as a non-exec director, and prompting in that way? As answer number 1. Now, answer number 2 is actually a completely different perspective. Normally, before I had this training, I'd have actually just asked, can you compare this website with this website? You would just get a very generic answer. Now, take this a step further. We've got an overview from a business consultancy perspective as a non-exec director. The next prompt will be, hi, ChatGPT, me again. Can you now put the hat on of a potential investor that may want to invest in our business and critique the difference between this website and this website? You might consider things like X, Y, and Z. And then you would then get a consumer's focus or a client's focus of our website and not an internal business perspective. So it's a huge different perspective. And the answer is actually crazily different in terms of you want it. And all that is different prompting that you will go into your business. Another example that you could do is, can you pretend to be a buyer of our property and give us feedback on our website A, website B, and then you're going to get a respective for a consumer that's buying our flats and houses and what they would find and feel on our website. So you're getting basically like a cheat sheet to how to touch on all of your stakeholders and consumers and buyers, people that you would, strategic partnerships that you will have, to make sure that your website is super polished and super high on a competitive front. And that's all the back of prompting ChatGPT in the right way.
Nice.
Last but not least, I actually had like a list of like 30 things that I learned this week that I was like, I could talk about that, but we don't have all weekend. So I tried to keep it fairly prompt. This one's called your sort of why, how, and what. These why, how, what, who, when, all of those are thrown around loads in business and MBAs. And I actually studied them back when I was doing business and marketing a good decade ago. But this one I actually really enjoyed because it's all about your purpose and how you build sustainable reputation in a market. And having a why, a purpose, to me, before I learned about this, does sound really fluffy. I don't know, Ben, if you'd agree. Like, your why as a business, I was like, why do our customers care about my why? Like, putting food in the dog bowl for my dogs, like that's not the why that I'm getting at, but that's what I thought initially. But the why and purpose is kind of having a clinical vision of why you want to serve a market, and you should actually focus on that when you're marketing. So the example, this is actually a model that's used by Simon Sinek, who I'm sure a lot of you have already heard for. But once you come up with your purpose of why, you come up with the cause of what do you believe. So for an example, in our surveying business, our why might be as simple as making architects' life easy. And that's it. They're starting from our drawings and they're producing their own sort of creative stuff. Normally people like when they're in their flow, so it's reducing that clunkiness. If we said what we do, it might not be that attractive to our audience. So for an example, let's picture Ben's owner of an architectural practice, shock horror, and I came up to him and met him at an event and I said, we do measured surveys. He'd be sort of interested, but that may not be the pivotal point for him to buy the service off us. But if you went and said, we make architects' lives easier and save business owners of architecture practices money, that is solving a problem and also pushing our why across there. So, it's all about how you angle that marketing. So for the example that he used is Apple, and the way that Simon Sinek and the lecturer sort of through is, if you picture what Apple actually is, they generated computers. If you actually looked in my laptop bag, or actually you don't even need to look in my bag, I've got an Apple mouse, an Apple laptop, an Apple MacBook, Apple headphones, although the ones I'm wearing are Bose, and pretty much all of the Apple items. But I didn't buy them because I knew that Apple was the best for headphones or was the best for mouses or whatever it may be. But I bought it because I love the Apple concept and the Apple why. The Apple why is believing challenging status quo and doing things differently. And then the how they do that is our products are beautifully designed and easy to use, which is completely true. And then the result is they make computers. But if you saw an advert where you just saw we make computers, you wouldn't be investing in their brand and their company right at the core. And that is, essentially what I am. I'm an Apple customer. If I want something new, whether it may be a new set of sunglasses. If they brought some out, I'd be interested to see what they do and what they're doing out of them. That's a bit of a far-fetched example, but the principle is if you get down to the why of your business, and then your products all around it sit in the what. So if you look around the what ring, all of the projects go all the way around it, but every project should communicate with the how and the why, and that keeps your business purpose really transparent of what you're trying to achieve when you're deviating into other areas of products. Make sense?
Awesome. Yeah, really good. Yeah, I'm slightly jealous of these Goldman Sachs things. I'm annoyed that I didn't fill out my application form now even more, but no, I'm sure there'll be plenty more learnings like this, and hopefully people listening will get something from this. It's not property specific, it's business specific, but fundamentally any business that you run, these are the fundamentals, marketing 101, that you should be thinking about when you're marketing any business. So yeah, very good. Cool. And I know you had a good day yesterday with the developer club. It was a site tour around 3 of our sites, which is the Marlow site, the Old Maltings in Abingdon, and St Andrew's Court in Thame. And we've got another site tour, which we are running on the 17th of October, 2024. It's a Thursday, and we'll be running it from 12 p.m. till 5 p.m. If you're interested in joining us on the tour, go to bit.ly/XP tour or DM us and we can send you details and you get on the waiting list. We had about 40 people earlier this year in April go around these sites. So hopefully some of those people will want to come back and see how things have progressed. St Andrew's Court, we've sold 2 units. The first phase of 9 flats is due to be complete in the next 2 or 3 weeks. The Old Maltings is really cracking on now. Partitions are in. They're going to be starting the first fix, electrics and plumbing, in the next week or so. And then Marlow is really cracking on at various different stages. Some units are plastered and tiling in bathrooms. Kitchens are going in a couple of weeks' time. So by the time this tour happens on the 17th of October, all of these projects will look, really, really well progressed. And hopefully you can learn a lot from it. So yeah, do register your interest at bit.ly/XP tour. We would love to show you around. If you're enjoying the podcast, don't forget to rate us on Spotify and review on Apple. It really does go a long way. And if you could just share it with just one person that you know would get value, who's running a small development business or a SME business in any kind, people will still get value from these podcasts, because we do go into the detail of a lot of the business surrounding our property companies. Cool. Yeah, unexpected visitors. Jack led into this quite well earlier. Wednesday, I met my solicitors on site to talk them through the site. When solicitors work on projects, often it's just, paperwork exercises, and they're looking at legal documents and plans and some site photos, but there's nothing, you can't beat having them walk around site with you to truly understand what's actually happening on the ground. And this project is very complicated from a car parking perspective. We've got interested parties, a snooker hall nearby that has certain access rights. We've got leases we don't have ownership of and access rights for emergency access and fire escape. So having them on site was great. And it was, I was enjoying showing them around and talking them through all the issues before I turned around to see what was 15 plus police officers, immigration officers. We had 2 health and safety executive officers on site. 2 guys from the fire brigade were swarming around the corner. I was backed in, literally like wall either side, and a fire escape gate behind me. So it was very, very intimidating. And I wondered what the hell is going on. Not really how I expected my Wednesday morning to plan out. And they were getting me to sign warrants to access the building. And yeah, pretty shook up, to be honest, having them come around the corner and just throwing this in my face and looking all serious. I was sort of glad I had my solicitors behind me, because they could help calm things down a little bit. Anyway, it was a shock to a Wednesday morning. Ultimately, what happened is our main contractor used some subcontractors to do some of the work in our building, and some of them didn't have work permits to work in the UK. So it turns out a plasterer that hadn't been paid because they did a very bad job got quite angry and apparently dobbed his guys in, which unbelievable, really. They'd obviously been following 1 or 2 of these individuals, and today was the day where they all swarmed on site to effectively kind of make arrests and deport a few people that don't have the correct work permits, and that was all happening on our site. So yeah, really, really stressful day. I was hoping to be off site by 11 o'clock. I didn't leave till about 6 o'clock, having made sure that everyone was off site that should be, that everything was kind of secure and safe. And yeah, a real eye opener, really, in terms of the risks associated with development projects. We had the fire brigade do some fire audits on some of the accommodation on site. We've got some works to do to rectify some fire detection. I was more worried about the health and safety executive because the health and safety of the builders isn't great on that site. But actually, they walked away with 3 minor comments about not using 240 volt electrics, utilizing a transformer to dumb it down to 110, a couple of issues with some missing toe boards and some mid rails on some scaffolding. Yeah, that was actually pretty much it. So yeah, interesting morning. I hope I don't get too many more of those because it was quite intimidating. But there you go.
Yeah, I obviously wasn't there, but got a very distressed phone call from Ben after saying,
yeah, I was shitting myself.
What a nightmare.
Cool.
End of the interns. I'll take this one. So today marks the last day of 4 interns that we took on from Reading University. It's a sad day, but joyous day for them to go back to their theoretical side of things. Now they've had a practical overview on how to do things. So yeah, we had Ruti, Jack, Alex and Nigel that joined us pretty much the whole of the summer. Absolute pleasure to have them as part of the business. They were very polite, on time, hardworking, open-minded and very good at listening, and very good also from a cultural fit perspective, and also greatly appreciative that they all joined in on the charity kayak as well. So they kind of feel part of the big family. As you can see from that photo, they're sort of half of the team and them joining in, but we wish them well on the rest of their studies. But now from a business owner's perspective of why we might have carried out this sort of process, it's obviously we're all busy, we're all running around. It's not easy always training people up and having people part of the team that don't understand things. But hopefully I can sort of shed a bit of light on that. So we reached out to Reading University to see if there were any opportunities for intern or postgrad introductions from a career advisor. We heard back from them saying that there was intern work. So that's obviously what we pursued. And essentially the way that the programme works is the university contribute £800 to the work. They come and work with us, and then we pay them near around sort of the minimum wage that they would expect for their age. And they essentially come and join the team. And the view that we have is by the time that the £800 runs out, hopefully they might actually be helping and contributing and assisting the relevant people in the business. There's obviously a lot of shadowing work and a lot of learning. And you can see another photo there if you are looking at site tour day that we did with them. But a lot of it is sort of bringing them along for the journey and showing them the businesses and bringing them in relevant meetings where we give good overviews so they can sort of passively learn through that process, but also help from an administration perspective. The benefit for us as an employer is hopefully we can potentially retain some of the good of the bunch throughout the rest of their final year, maybe a day a week or half a day a week, to then keep them interested and knowledgeable about our business for when the grad opportunity comes, to ensure that we can sort of get an early foot in the door with that good talent. To give you an idea of what they're studying, 2 of them, so Alex and Jack, are studying real estate. Nigel was studying building surveying, quantity surveying, and so was Ruti. So, really relative university degrees. Jack and Alex are even learning about land valuations. They're even learning about the way that the RICS method of valuing sites, as well as lettings law, as well as all of the construction side of things and project management, whereas the building surveying roles are much more technical and follow purely around the sort of construction process. So they're not learning about valuing sites, they're learning about valuing builds, so to speak. So super intuitive students that have come join us, and they've been an absolute pleasure to have in our office and as part of a few of the events that we've done. And we'll definitely be doing it, hopefully, again next year. Just what I'd highly recommend for any business owner out there, if you feel like you could do with a helping hand or someone a bit more junior that is also technically or actually skilled in the sectors that you're in, there's no harm reaching out to the university and seeing what sort of programs they have for work experience or interning.
Yeah, I think my advice from the other side, if you are young listening to this, you're unsure what route you want to go down, doing things like this are great for both good and bad. When I did my work experience back at school, I worked for my dad's mate's accountancy firm, worked there for 2 weeks. Up to that point, liked working in finance, liked working with money, always thought accountancy was the way forward. After those 2 weeks, completely the opposite is the way that I was thinking. It was dull as dishwater. I really hated the 2 weeks. I realized that I needed a lot more creativity and being out there speaking to people rather than stuck in front of a computer screen looking at spreadsheets. So whether it's a good experience or a bad experience, you're going to get an understanding of what's for you. So my advice is just get out there, start working for small businesses like ours, because you're going to learn way more in those types of businesses than you are the big corporate cogs, because you're going to get thrown in the deep end. You're going to get some insight into how businesses work from start to finish. So yeah, get out there. Cool. Tales from the ecosystem. You know, if you tune in to us regularly, you know that we run, sort of 5 businesses mainly. So Aura Architecture, XP Survey, XP Property, Central Suites, and then Aparo Social is our social housing portfolio down in South London. This week alone, and this isn't the first time this happened, but it's happened, there's been 3 occasions where I thought, I need to talk about this, because we've always built this ecosystem to effectively feed into each other. All of the businesses complement each other. You've got XP Surveys that feeds the surveys into Aura. Aura then designs things, goes on to XP who develops it, and then Central Suites takes over the property management. So everything is linked. And this week there's been 3 occasions whereby it's shown how powerful that ecosystem is in terms of network and opportunities. The first one was that Aura had an inquiry from, so we are selling a site in South London called Beckton Court. That image on screen is actually of an old CGI, but I didn't have time to find the latest one. But it's on the market now. So somebody inquired with Aura, having seen planning drawings that were drawn by Aura, and inquired directly with Aura to understand a little bit more about the project, to understand about the cladding and the type of cladding we proposed and costs associated, and generally understanding how the development was put together. Now, obviously, I didn't necessarily let on that I was also the developer on that site, but I know that there are people reviewing this, and that they are actively researching the development, and I can check in with the estate agent now to understand whether an offer is forthcoming, and let them know that I did have a call from this potential buyer, and that maybe that is a hot lead that he can follow up on to try and drive an offer to sell our XP property development to. So again, completely aside from XP, but a lead and an interesting conversation coming in via Aura Architecture that may aid the sort of knowledge and the sort of firepower that we have as XP Property, knowing that these conversations are happening. If that was another architect, that architect isn't going to ring me as the developer and say, I've just had this call from such and such, they're interested, they're asking this question, that question. I'm hearing it from the horse's mouth, having conversations with a potential buyer directly to an XP project, which is amazing. Well, the second thing that happened this week is I was in discussions with a land agent that has a 10-bedroom house in Lewisham that I was in some early discussions with about buying for our social housing portfolio, or inquiring about and just seeing if there's any scope to put social housing stock into that property. Anyway, that agent went on his website, saw that he'd been involved in various other projects, and literally yesterday morning, my neighbour sent me a scheme in St Albans from a developer that's gone bust. Montreux Developments, they're called. There's a 55-unit scheme in St Albans that's on the market for £10 million. That's half built, and they've gone into administration. And what I found out is that the person that brought me the potential Aparo social housing property in Lewisham was actually the agent that sold that development to Montreux Developments. So I've got a contact there, has direct line of communication with the owners of Montreux Development. There could be an opportunity for an off the record conversation about what issues they have. Why have they gone into administration? Can we save it? Is there a creative structure that we can come up with to kind of save this development and work with them to finish it, or find a new buyer, or basically help them out? So that's another way in which, kind of a roundabout way, the ecosystem that we work with has created an opportunity and brought an opportunity to us. And then yesterday, Trevor from XP Surveys, our new business development manager, had a very good conversation and introduced me to a couple of tech guys, basically, they've basically raised £30 million in South London, working in Chelsea, Kensington. They've done a number of refurbishment projects. And I was able to mention that as part of Aura, we've worked with Lefroy Homes, Lefroy Developments. Lefroy are basically like the gods to these two guys. Like, they see what Lefroy are doing, and the two guys that work in this company are aiming to be, where Lefroy are in 5 years' time. So through Aura, through XP Surveys, and I'm going to be meeting with them face-to-face next week, there is an opportunity to discuss both surveys, an opportunity to discuss architectural work for their development stuff, and then also to potentially tap into some of their high net worth contacts and the funding that they have for XP Property. So yeah, just a quick overview of how this week there's been 3 occasions where I've thought, wow, this ecosystem and having these interlinked companies, is such a great way of bringing opportunities and feeding each business potential work, potential opportunities. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. Can I just do a little bit on ecosystem just before you do dive on from that?
Yeah.
Obviously, at the Goldman Sachs, a lot of people be like, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I run a development company, a surveying business, part of a social portfolio, and also run a management business. So they're kind of like, whoa, that's so crazy. How would you start an ecosystem or a secondary business, which is probably what some of our listeners are thinking. Like, how do you, when you're a development company, like a national home builder, they call it going up and down the supply chain. So you're sort of piggybacking on to other things that you do in the industry, so per se. And when I sort of explained that it's not as Dragon's Den as it sounds, it's very, very simple. It's basically analysing something that you spend a lot of money on. So that might be if you spend £80,000 per year on surveys, and then you look into how much it would cost to bring that in-house and, hire a full-time surveyor, and what the operational cost would be to manage that surveyor, manage the leads, manage the business. And what you will find is you've already got big cost to one business that is a low risk endeavor to take on that cost at a lower value and bring it in-house. So that's an easy way to look at it. And then obviously you go, well, if we have a successful year and we manage to bring in external client work, then we might then build a business off the back of that and grow it and, bring in a team and blah, de blah. But I thought that would be relative to share.
Nice. Cool. We are seeking more investment. If you listen to this podcast, if you tune into us on socials, on YouTube, you can see some of the work that we do. We are award-winning developers. We've raised over £15 million of equity over the last 6 years. We've done about 45 million in senior debt, and that's only going to get larger in the next year or so. But we are, always in the need for more investment to purchase new sites, to develop and build out some of the pipeline that we've got, to make some investments into our social housing portfolio. We're looking for people that want to get into property, that generally have £1 million to £2 million they want to deploy into UK real estate. And we'd love to set up a call or an introductory call to understand more about how we can work with you on that front. Most of our projects historically have been with joint venture partners. How that's structured is really sort of project by project and relationship by relationship basis. But we don't really push or talk about it enough that we are constantly trying to bring in new investment. So I thought it would be prudent to say it on these calls. And if anyone is listening into this and someone that's looking to get into property that has a pool of cash between sort of £1 and £2 million, I mean, we do have investments that are smaller than that, but we are looking to increase the size of projects that we work on. And that means increasing the size of investment that we require as well. So yeah, do get in touch and DM either Jack or I if you're interested in having an introductory call.
Yeah, I'd also just like to say that our sort of line of business, we've had investors that want to invest and learn everything. So sort of an earn and learn model where we sort of share all of the spreadsheets, the communication, the tips and everything that we do throughout the project. And we've also had investors who just want us, what I call invest and forget until the project's towards an end. So an amalgamation of all. So if you're interested in any capacity, reach out and we'll be welcome to have a chat and meet you face to face, share around some sites. And obviously the site day might be a good opportunity to kickstart that process, which we have coming up in a few weeks.
Nice. Cool. And if you want to learn from Jack and I, we've spoken about the XP boardroom, which is still open. It's only a few spaces left now. We had a really good turnout last week for our boardroom session. If you want to grow your business in a group setting where we do deal clinics, talk about business issues, leads, needs and intros, set goals for each other and hold each other accountable for those goals, then get in touch about our boardroom sessions. What we haven't spoken about too much of late is the fact that we do one-to-one consultancy, both on a property investment, property development perspective, but also business. I've done a lot of one-to-one introductory calls and consultancy with other architects, with planning consultants, with civil engineers that want to start getting into property development. Maybe they have a service-based business alongside, which I can also help grow, given what we've done with XP Surveys and Aura. And we have various packages on our website under the consultancy part of our website. But if you're interested in discussing some one-to-one, more intimate kind of consultancy, then type one-to-one below and we can have a chat and see what we can do to help grow your business.
Yeah, I'd also just add on to that. I'd hate to even think how much Ben and I have invested in our self-learning. We're talking about the Goldman Sachs. We do business coaching every week in XP surveys. Ben's been doing business coaches every month, as well as a non-exec advisor in XP Property, as long as scaling our businesses and dealing with that level of growth. So, you're getting a lot of decades of experience all within, hopefully. And our aim is, because we pay people for things like this that sit a level above us, our aim is that our fees are outweighed in the value that we give to you in your business. Therefore, it's a sustainable package that we can continue checking in with you and creating that value in your business. And it might even be saving a tax fee on a property or something that you weren't aware of, and that sort of few £100s an hour is almost nonsensical when we get into the nitty gritty of aiding projects, development, and growing a business.
Yep. Cool. That's all for today. If you've got any questions, please do drop them down below. We are here every Friday at 5 p.m. and we also launch the audio format in podcast at noon every Tuesday. So if you're not on Spotify or Apple Podcast following us, please do subscribe and tune in as it gets released on noon every Tuesday. See you next week.
Bye.
These live Q&A episodes are all about helping you grow your business and build a property portfolio that provides financial wealth. If you have specific topics that you'd like us to discuss, make sure to comment on the platform you're listening on or email info@xpproperty.co.uk so that we can discuss your topic in future episodes. And if you found these conversations valuable for growing your business, make sure to click that follow button, and we'd really love for you to tell just one person about us. Thank you.